The Nevada desert is a place where sound goes to die. Miles of sand. Dead roads. A sky so wide it makes you feel small, unwanted. In 2003, I was sent there by an insurance investigation firm to examine a property that had survived 6 wildfires without a single scratch. They called it the house that refused to burn. No one lived within 50 miles of it. Locals avoided the area, not because of superstition, but because every time the desert caught fire, people died watching that house remain standing. I reached the location at dusk. The sun bled into the horizon, turning the sand red, like raw flesh. And there it was. A white wooden house. Perfect. No smoke stains. No cracks. No age. The air around it felt wrong. Cooler. Thicker. As if the desert itself was holding its breath. I stepped closer and noticed something disturbing. The ground around the house was blackened, burned completely, but the burn mark stopped exactly at the foundation, like fire had slammed into an invisible wall. I touched the outer wall. Warm. Not sun-warm. Body-warm. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the house smelled faintly of ash and old sweat. The furniture looked untouched, yet there was no dust. On the walls hung photographs of families from different decades. In every photo, they were standing inside this house. And none of them were smiling. Then I heard it. A quiet crackling sound. Not outside. Not from a fireplace. But from inside the walls, like something burning that never goes out. That sound. That soft, endless crackling, like fire chewing on bone. But curiosity is a quiet poison. You don't feel it killing you until it's too late. I stepped fully inside and closed the door behind me. The sound stopped. Instantly. The silence was so complete it rang in my ears. No wind. No insects. Not even my own breathing felt real. The house swallowed noise the way sand swallows blood. I walked through the living room. Each step felt delayed, like the floor was deciding whether to let me move forward. The walls were still warm. When I pressed my palm against them, the heat pulsed, slow, rhythmic. Like a heartbeat. The photographs drew me in again. I looked closer this time. The families weren't just standing stiffly. Their skin looked stretched. Eyes sunken, mouth slightly open, as if caught mid-scream. I noticed something new. In every photo, there were burn marks on their clothes, small at first in older pictures, then larger in the newer ones. In the most recent photo, dated 1997, the people were completely blackened, faces frozen in agony. But the house behind them? Untouched. A smell hit me suddenly, hair and fat burning. I gagged and staggered back. The temperature inside dropped sharply, then rose again, like the house was testing me. Then I heard footsteps. Above me. Slow. Heavy. Dragging. I called out, my voice shaking. No response. The footsteps stopped directly over my head. Something dripped onto my shoulder. I wiped it with my fingers. Black. Oily. Warm. The ceiling began to darken, spreading outward in branching patterns, like veins filling with fire. The crackling returned, louder now, angrier. The walls began to whisper. Not words. Names. Hundreds of them. Spoken at once. And every name felt familiar, like I had known them, or would know them. The house wasn't empty. It was full. And I was standing in its throat. I reached the basement door. It wasn't locked. That was worse. The handle was hot, far hotter than the walls now. When I pulled it open, a wave of air rushed upward, thick and rotten, carrying the unmistakable smell of burned flesh trapped for decades. The stairs descended into darkness. As soon as my foot touched the first step, the house reacted. The crackling surged, sharp and violent, like fire being fed fresh meat. The walls around the stairwell glowed faintly orange, veins of light pulsing beneath peeling paint. I descended slowly. Each step groaned, not from age, but from strain. Like it didn't want to carry me. Like it wanted me to fall. At the bottom, my flashlight flickered back to life on its own. The basement walls were black. Not dirty, charred. Thick layers of burn scars covered every surface, stopping just short of the ceiling, as if fire had tried again and again to escape but was forced back down. In the center sat a massive stone pit. Cold. Empty. But breathing. The air above it shimmered, bending light like heat waves. I leaned closer and heard faint screams, distant, layered, overlapping. Not echoes. Memories. Carved into the stone floor were words, gouged deep by frantic hands. It learns. Do not feed it fear. Fire is a door. Then the pit spoke. Not aloud. Inside me. Images flooded my mind, people bound here, flames rising, the house watching. Not burning. Listening. Learning how fire moved. How it consumed. How it could be controlled. The cult didn't worship fire. They imprisoned it. The house wasn't protected from fire. It had eaten it. The pit suddenly ignited, not with flames, but with blinding white light. Heat exploded outward. My skin blistered instantly. I screamed and stumbled backward. And the stairs were gone. Only smooth wall. Sealed. The basement darkened. The screaming grew louder. And something shifted inside the pit. Something that had been waiting a very long time. It felt unreal, like the house had erased the stairs from its memory. I pressed my palms against the stone, screaming, pounding, but the sound didn't echo. It vanished the moment it left my throat. The basement was shrinking. Not visibly, but perceptibly. The air thickened, heavy and wet, every breath tasting like smoke and rusted metal. The pit in the center pulsed brighter, dimmer, brighter again, like an eye opening. Then the screaming stopped. Silence. A voice replaced it. You came inside, it said calmly. Patiently. That means you are ready. The pit's light crawled up the walls, forming shadows that ignored the laws of fire. They twisted into human shapes, men, women, children, peeling themselves free from stone. Their mouths were stretched wide, but no sound came out. I recognized one face. It was from the photograph upstairs. His eyes turned toward me and melted, dripping down his cheeks like wax. When he spoke, his voice carried hundreds of others. We burned so it wouldn't have to. The temperature surged. My clothes began to smoke. I smelled my own skin blistering. Panic hit when I realized the truth, the house wasn't trapping me. It was deciding. The walls leaned inward, enclosing me like lips closing around food. The pit flared, forcing images into my mind, fires across decades, deserts burning, towns erased, all stopping at the same White House. Each fire made it stronger. Each death fed it. The voice returned, closer now. Fire obeys me, it whispered. But fear feeds me better. The floor cracked. Heat roared upward. I slipped toward the pit, boots scraping uselessly against stone. Above me, the ceiling opened slightly. Just enough to see the house glowing red. It wasn't burning. It was chewing. And I understood. If I didn't escape now, I wouldn't die. I would stay, stopped suddenly, forever. Not cooled, paused. Like the house had inhaled and was holding its breath. I hung there at the edge of the pit, sweat pouring down my face, skin burning but not breaking. The light dimmed just enough for me to see movement inside the pit. Not flames. Hands. Charred, blackened hands reached upward, gripping the stone edge, leaving glowing fingerprints that slowly faded. One by one, heads followed, faces fused by fire, eyes burned white, mouths sewn shut with melted flesh. They didn't scream. They watched. The voice returned, no longer calm. Names, it demanded. Fire needs names. The house wasn't asking who I was. It was asking what I would give. Memories tore out of me without permission, my childhood home, my parents' faces, every place I had ever felt safe. Each memory burned as it surfaced, turning black and curling away like paper in a flame. The house shuddered in pleasure. Yes, it whispered. You burn beautifully. I realized then why it never burned itself. It didn't need to. It burned people from the inside and stored what remained. The figures in the pit began to move again. One managed to speak, his mouth tearing open violently. Run, he croaked. Before it learns you completely. The ceiling above cracked wider. Cool desert air rushed in, slicing through the heat. The house screamed, not in sound, but in pressure. My skull felt like it would split. The walls tightened, furious now. The pit surged upward, fireless light swallowing the basement. I jumped. Pain exploded through my body as I clawed toward the opening. Something grabbed my ankle, burned fingers digging into flesh, trying to pull me back. The house roared inside my head. Stay, it begged. I kicked free. As I dragged myself upward, I heard it speak one last sentence, soft, wounded, promising. You will come back. And deep down, where the fire had already touched me, I was afraid it was collapsed onto the floor above, gasping like I had been buried alive. The house sealed itself behind me with a soft, satisfied sound, wood settling, walls cooling, as if nothing had happened. The interior looked normal again. Too normal. No glow. No heat. No screaming. Just a quiet, clean house standing in the middle of death. I staggered outside. The desert night had fallen, but the stars felt wrong, too sharp, too close, like eyes pinned into the sky. The wildfire that had surrounded the area earlier was gone. No smoke. No embers. Just blackened land stretching endlessly, perfectly still. Then I noticed the footprints. They circled the house. Hundreds of them. Bare feet. Burned feet. Child-sized and adult-sized, pressed deep into the sand, all facing the same direction. Facing me. A low wind moved through the desert, carrying whispers that matched the names I'd heard inside the walls. My skin crawled as I realized the truth, the house didn't just consume people. It released them. I ran toward my vehicle, heart hammering, but the distance stretched unnaturally. No matter how fast I moved, the house stayed just at the edge of my vision, white and patient. Then the radio in my car turned on by itself. Static. Crackling. Fire sound. A voice cut through, layered and familiar. Distance doesn't matter, it said. You are marked. My hands were shaking as I drove away, headlights slicing through darkness that seemed to close in behind me. In the rearview mirror, the house shrank, then vanished. I didn't stop driving until sunrise. Days later, doctors said the burns on my skin made no sense, patterns like fingerprints, embedded deep, as if heat had touched me from the inside. At night, I still smell smoke. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see a White House standing far away. Waiting for the next fire. I thought leaving Nevada would break whatever hold the house had on me. I was wrong. The first sign was the smell. Smoke, faint, stale, impossible. It followed me into hotel rooms, into diners, into my own apartment hundreds of miles away. No one else noticed it. When I asked, people looked at me like I was sick. The burns on my skin healed, but the patterns remained. Finger-shaped scars, dark and precise, wrapped around my ankle where the thing in the pit had grabbed me. Doctors called it nerve damage. I stopped asking questions. Sleep became dangerous. Every time I closed my eyes, I dreamed of the house, not burning, never burning, just standing there while the world around it turned to ash. In the dreams, I was always walking toward it. Always smiling. Always relieved. I woke up one night standing in my kitchen. The stove was on. All burners. A pot sat empty, glowing red, metal screaming softly. I hadn't turned it on. I knew that with terrifying certainty. My hands were shaking, but my face felt calm, almost pleased. On the wall above the stove, written in black soot, were 2 words. Feed me. I scrubbed until my hands bled. The words didn't fade, they sank into the paint, like the wall had absorbed them. After that, fires started happening near me. Small ones at first. A trash can. A car engine. An apartment 2 floors below mine. Every time, I was close enough to feel the heat, but never touched by it. Never harmed. News reports played in the background one morning while I drank coffee I couldn't taste. Authorities are investigating a series of unexplained fires, the anchor said. Witnesses report seeing a man nearby in each case. He was unharmed. The screen showed blurry footage. My silhouette. The house didn't need me to go back to it. It had learned something better. It had learned how to walk. I stopped and it was walking through me. That was the only way to survive. Whenever a flame appeared, candle, lighter, stove, even sunlight reflected off glass, I felt it respond inside my skull. A gentle pressure. A quiet approval. Like something nodding in the dark. The house was thinking through me. I tried therapy. Medication. Silence. None of it helped. The smell of smoke grew stronger at night, thick enough to choke me awake. Sometimes I heard crackling behind my ears, deep in the bone, synced with my heartbeat. Fire had learned my rhythm. One evening, while washing my hands, I noticed something wrong with the mirror. My reflection didn't blink when I did. It smiled first. The skin around its eyes was darker, like ash pressed into pores. When it spoke, its lips didn't move, but I heard the voice clearly. "You carry us well," it said. I smashed the mirror. The glass shattered inward, falling toward the sink instead of away, as if pulled by heat. For a moment, in every shard, I saw the same thing. The White House. Closer now. That night, I found a burn mark on my chest. Perfectly square. The size of a doorway. I didn't remember being burned. I remembered opening something. The dreams changed after that. I no longer walked toward the house. I stood still while it approached me, sliding across landscapes that melted and reformed, cities, forests, bedrooms, leaving blackened paths that cooled instantly once it passed. People screamed around it. But when it reached me, it was silent. Respectful. I woke up whispering words I didn't understand. In the morning, my phone buzzed with a news alert. A wildfire in Nevada had stopped suddenly. At the center of the burned area stood a single structure. White. Untouched. The house wasn't chasing me anymore. They found the building. It was 3 days later. A White House standing where my apartment used to be. No debris. No fire damage. Just a clean foundation surrounded by scorched concrete, burn marks stopping perfectly at its walls. Authorities said it made no sense. Inside, everything was staged. Furniture. Photographs. Even a framed picture near the entrance. It was me. Standing in the doorway. Smiling. Witnesses reported the house felt warm. Alive. Some said they heard crackling from inside the walls. Others claimed they smelled smoke and felt calm, safe, standing near it. Invited. The report stopped after the first fire. A small one. An accident. The house remained. Months later, a wildfire tore through Nevada again. It devoured miles of desert, erased towns, killed dozens. At the center stood a single structure. White. Untouched. But this time, something was different. Firefighters swore the house had moved. Only slightly. Only closer. And sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet and the air feels too still, people say they hear a knock on their door. Not loud. Polite. Patient. If you open it, you won't see flames. You'll see a house. Standing where it shouldn't be. Waiting to be let in. Because fire doesn't need to burn anymore. Now. It knows how to walk.